Hi everyone. Stop, that was really weird. Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sam, otherwise known as Snerixx, and I'm coming at you this year with a brand new style video, although it's not really that new because I've technically done these types of videos before, but regardless, I'm bringing back the movie reviews. I know, I'll hold for the applause. Okay, what better movie to start off our revamp of movie reviews than Mean Girls, right? Totally a classic that's been brought back 20 years later and making me feel incredibly old, but that's okay. So if you guys are like me, you're probably really excited to see the new Mean Girls movie, and I actually saw it last night. I have some thoughts and I want to share them, and I want to at least preface this by saying that any sort of remake, you have to go into it kind of unbiased, which is sometimes hard, especially in this movie because it was almost the exact same movie all the way down to very similar dialogue. It is a little difficult to go into it being like, this is a brand new movie and I'm not going to compare it to the other one. Just go into this knowing that yes, it is just a different version of what we already know. I actually really enjoy remakes. I don't know why, I just think it's cool to see like a different version of what we already know. Remakes are weird and that's fine. We're just gonna go into it knowing that. I've never seen the Mean Girls musical. I know the movie Mean Girls like the back of my hand. I've watched it 1,000 too many times and I love every second of it. And look, I even have my burn book earrings. I couldn't believe I actually had earrings for this particular occasion. So I figured we'd kind of walk through the movie a little bit, but I also wanted to kind of give my thoughts and opinions, things that I noticed, some comparisons, some similarities, differences between the movies. So let's get into it. And before we begin, I just want to put it out there that there will be spoilers, I suppose, in this. It is Mean Girls, so we kind of know what to expect, but there are just a few little hidden things in there that I am going to talk about. So if you don't want to be exposed to that, go see the movie and then come back and watch this. The fact that I have pages of notes on a movie that I've seen a million times, I'm absolutely insane. Okay. The original Mean Girls came out in 2004, starring Lindsay Lohan and Rachel McAdams, written by Tina Fey, and this movie is also written by Tina Fey, but it is not starring Rachel McAdams nor Lindsay Lohan. We have two new Mean Girls. I'm gonna say her name wrong. Ongori Rice, did I say that right? If I didn't, please correct me, plays Katie Heron, and Renee Rapp plays Miss Regina George. And if I read this correctly, Renee Rapp played Regina George on Broadway as well, so this seems to be kind of a perfect role for her. Honestly, in watching the movie, that girl, intimidating as fuck. Like, I legit think that if I was in a room with Renee Rapp or her version of Regina George, I would actually crumble. I thought she did a fabulous job, but I'm also getting ahead of myself. Also, another familiar face that I was really excited to see in this movie is Jenna Fisher from The Office. She plays Katie Heron's mother, which, I mean, right off the bat, the resemblance was pretty on point. Whoever did the casting for this movie, I probably have that information. I probably wrote down who cast this movie. I have everything in front of me. But whoever cast this movie did a really good job because I thought they looked like they could be a believable mother and daughter duo. Interestingly enough too, we totally kicked the dad out. There is no Mr. Heron. We don't have any dad figures. Honestly, it doesn't really make a big difference. The dad didn't play that big of a role, I guess, that Jenna Fisher couldn't just pick up and take over. So just an immediate difference that I noticed. We have a few songs at the beginning, and I'm just gonna say right now, I hate saying this because my first reaction is to reject the unknown. So next time I watch the movie, I may have a totally different opinion. But just right off the bat, I was not impressed with the music. I thought everybody sang well. I thought the performances were really cool. Like, it was well done visually. I could already do without the music. And we're only like 5 minutes in the movie. But that's okay. It's fine. My husband said he actually liked the music, so I was surprised because he's not a big musical person. So I might just be being weird. We are introduced to Mrs. Norbury and Principal Duvall, who is still played by Tina Fey and Tim Meadows. In fact, I think they were pretty much the only people that were recast. Also, just on the side, something cool that they added was Mrs. Norbury and the principal are actually in some sort of relationship. They didn't specify if they were married or just dating, but they indicated that they were definitely together. I thought that was kind of a cool difference there. Of course, we have Janice Ian, who actually, her name is not Janice Ian. I wrote it down and I'm probably gonna say it wrong. I think it's pronounced Janice Emma Ike or Emma Ike. I am so ruining this. They switched up her last name, which was totally fine, didn't make any difference. And we have Damien, who is best friends with Janice, same old relationship, and Katie bumps into them. Here's the thing. We go into another song here when we meet the Plastics. Renee Rapp, right off the bat, is just like such a believable Regina George. I felt like we had to rush through the story a bit, at least some parts that not necessarily were vital, but I felt like the original kind of took more time to develop, whereas we kind of almost brushed through some things in in the remake to make room for this music. And I felt like the actresses that played Regina, Gretchen, and Karen, to me at least, seemed like very believable high school characters. I know a lot of them are very young, so that would make sense. So I feel like when we get to these particular characters, even Katie, I was like, yes, this is a high school girl. I can see it, I can feel it. Karen is played by Avantika, and Gretchen Wieners is played by Baby Wood. Karen is still very Karen. Gretchen I felt was fine, maybe a little less erratic than the original. She was definitely still very uptight and very dependent on Regina's opinion of her, so that definitely remained consistent. She definitely gave Gretchen a little bit of a different vibe, so that was cool. When this originally came out in 2004, everybody dressed differently, spoke differently, and another big thing is there was no cell phones in the original. There was no social media, there wasn't anything like that. Of course, we have the three-way call attack in the original. That does not happen in this movie, and honestly, I just feel like it's because technology is pretty advanced nowadays, and that's probably, we're not gonna be able to trick each other as easily. I mean, do people even three-way call each other anymore, or is it more like a FaceTime or like group chats? You know what I mean? I thought it made sense because if you're gonna put out the exact same movie 20 years later, it kind of has to be relevant to what we're seeing now. So the makeup, the outfits, the music, the dialogue was very updated. So that was, I thought, cool. It at least gave it a little bit of a different vibe. And speaking of social media, something else I noticed right off the bat is that we don't have Katie's narrative that we're hearing as the audience, or her internal dialogue. In the original, we kind of are hearing her voiceover, what she's thinking, what she's seeing, whereas in this remake, we are seeing her go through these things, but we're not hearing it. So this movie depended on social media, like montages of social media, to give us a bit of a narrative of what's going on in like quick little transition scenes. When we meet the plastics, we get the "so you agree, you think you're really pretty," and we have fetch still trying to be a thing. And on Wednesdays, we wear what? The correct answer is pink. If you didn't say pink, then you can't sit with us. In addition, because we're not getting Katie's dialogue, we're also not getting a lot of these African throwbacks that we kind of had in the original, where she was seeing the school as animals, or in this way that she might have been used to when she lived in Africa. This happens during one song where the dancers and the students are acting like animals, and it's kind of meant to portray how Regina George has so much power over these people, how it's almost like a jungle the way that this school functions, and that she's the top of the food chain, or the apex predator. That's literally the name of the song, Apex Predators. So it's depicting this high school in the way that we were kind of seeing it in the original, like people are sort of animalistic. I'm not sure if there was a particular reason why they took that out. Also, again, it could have to do with the fact that we're not in Katie's head, so we're not really seeing things through her eyes. Of course, we have our love interest, Aaron Samuels, played by Chris Briney. So we have our classic get-in loser, and Katie goes to Regina's house. They don't go to the mall first, and there is no little sister dancing to Milkshake on the TV. Once again, I think that is because it's maybe going back to the Broadway version where they just didn't need all these extra characters, so they're like, let's just keep it simple. We need Regina's mom. Regina's mom needs to be in this, and she is played by the wonderful Busy Phillips. Originally, this role was played by Amy Poehler, who was literally perfect for this role. I don't think anybody could have played it better, and so Busy Phillips coming in and taking over the role, I think probably was going to be the best option, because she did a great job. I thought she was hilarious. I'm not like a regular mom, I'm a cool mom. Totally the same vibe that Busy Phillips gave off, except of course it's just more modern and updated, and she's trying to use more Gen Z terminology. And this is where we meet the classic burn book, except for in this movie it seemed more like a burn binder to me. It looked more like bindery, but it was called the burn book. They kept it the exact same, it looked the exact same. I know in one of the interviews I saw of Tina Fey talking about this movie, she was debating whether or not to, making the burn book online or trying to adapt it to be something a little bit more modern, but I guess the overall decision was to keep it the same, which I think is kind of important, which I'm really interested. Have you or anyone you know ever made a burn book? Because anybody that would replicate this at this point after seeing this movie, it's just like, what would you expect besides pure chaos? And this is just pure evil. I would be very interested to know if anybody actually has tried to make a burn book. We get a classic shout out to the October 3rd, because I think they're singing during it. I don't remember, but I just know when they bring up the October 3rd thing, they kind of pan off to the side and there's like a chorus that's like, October 3rd! which is once again kind of a shout out to the fact that every year on October 3rd, people still quote this movie because it's just that fucking iconic, right? And obviously in the original, they make a point to be like, this is the time where everyone's gonna dress quote unquote slutty is what they said. In this movie, they use sexy, which I thought was a little bit more appropriate. So one of the outfits that Karen pulls out when she's trying on different, you know, outfits for Halloween is one from the original where the girls cut the hole in Regina's shirt and she's got the purple bra sticking through. She kind of flashes that real quick so we get a glimpse of it. And I was kind of disappointed because I saw it with my husband who didn't get the reference, or at least it didn't make him excited. And I was just like, oh my god! We get past this song, Sexy, which apparently was not in the Broadway musical. Correct me if I'm wrong. Katie arrives in the, I swear it was like the exact same costume that Lindsay Lohan wore. Another scene that I thought was a cool shout out, or at least a consistent part of the movie, was when Katie goes to Damon, I keep calling him Damon. I'm literally reading Vampire Diaries, or at least it's reading it to me on Audible. And so I keep calling him Damon, and it's not Damon, it's Damien. So we go to Janice and Damien's and they are watching a scary movie. Just like the original, they are watching the exact same movie and are at the exact same scene right before the jump scare when Katie walks in with the bridezilla. What is she? Not bridezilla, the Bride of Frankenstein ex-wife. And of course in the original we have the chalkboard, the dramatic crossing off, the loud screeching of the chalk on the chalkboard, going through how they're going to destroy Regina George. But instead of that, we go into a song, and the song was depicted as like a big party because it's called Revenge Party. In this song we see little tidbits and snippets of Regina getting screwed over by Katie. You know, instead of cutting the holes in her shirt, they have the sprinklers go off when she wins Homecoming Queen or whatever, and that has become the trend of the school to have the wet runny makeup and like wet hair look. So they kind of stick to the same ideas, but once again we're kind of flying through them because we're seeing them in this song. Also in this scene, which I thought was interesting that they switched this up, is we are revealed the reason why Janice and Regina are no longer friends. In the original, Janice is continuously shutting Damien down. Don't tell her, nope, we're not talking about it, we're not talking about it. And Regina is the one that ultimately shares with Katie what happened. So again, we're only seeing Regina's side in this story. We're not even 100% sure that's how it went down. It was interesting to see in the remake, we get the explanation from Janice. Well, actually Damien told the story, but it was still from Janice's side. It wasn't Regina's story. To be honest, I think I was following along with what happened. It had something to do with fire. So what the heck? Maybe I wrote it down. Oh, okay. I remember now. An element in this one that we didn't have in the last one was that Regina George was accepting of Janice being part of the LGBTQ plus community. So in this remake, we're told that they had like matching stuffed animals or something like that, and Janice's had a little rainbow pin on it, and Regina was supportive of that. I kind of lost what happened here until we get to the situation where there was a spin the bottle, and Regina's bottle landed on Janice, and she kissed her in front of everybody and then made some sort of comment about Janice being a lesbian in like a negative way. Again, the details were weird. I was kind of like, wait, what? And then Regina was going around the school saying that Janice was obsessed with her. So back to kind of the original concept, the obsessed with me thing. Something about this stuffed animal, I think maybe Janice set it on fire or something. And so people like thought that she was crazy or something. I'm so sorry, those details are terrible. Like stupid convoluted teenage drama. So I guess that part of it was very realistic in that it's half the time you're just like, wait, so what the fuck happened? That's stupid and that's really dramatic, and why? Like why? Outing somebody's sexuality or exposing them for whatever reason is not just stupid high school shit, that's just straight up fucked up. It was interesting in the original, it was just Regina saying like, I think you're a lesbian and now I'm gonna be weird about it and you can't come to my birthday party because there's gonna be girls in bathing suits. It never really seemed like Janice came out to Regina, and then she dances with Kevin Apor and we kind of see that happening. Oh wait, and I think that they're like making out at one point at the end. So she's not a lesbian in the first one, at least not strictly a lesbian. I don't know. Whereas in this one, Janice is a lesbian and did come out to Regina, and Regina was supportive of it, and it flipped a switch, and then there was a problem. So again, because we have a song that's kind of going through what they're gonna do to Regina, I felt like they just glossed through the formality of the whole thing, where they literally wrote out step by step what they were gonna do. They had a literal plan where we don't really see that. Janice doesn't work in the mall, so there's no foot cream. I think they used some food product, like I can't remember what it was. The Calatine bars were consistent assistant, Katie straight up tells Aaron that Regina's cheating on him. There is no teacher on student relationship in this movie, which wasn't like made a huge thing in the original, but it was still supposed to be like a funny thing going on. That's not in it. There's no teacher on student relationship, thank God. But Regina is still fucking Shane Omen in the goddamn closet. So I assume people have sex at high school. That's probably what happens, but that was not happening at our school. Was that happening at your school, or do I not even want to know? Anyway, I was kind of confused because we are seeing this again through social media. We're seeing people talking about Regina George. Instead of going around with like the interview style, we see people talking about it like on TikTok, which I'm like, do high schoolers do that? Please enlighten me, because I know obviously high schoolers make TikToks and I'm sure they make TikToks about their friends, but Regina George came across as like a national celebrity. Like at one point, Megan Thee Stallion literally jumps in and is talking about it. I was confused by the virality of these videos. Is she supposed to be a celebrity? You know, we never got an instance of like Regina making videos. We saw Karen making videos, but we didn't see Regina. So I'm like, what exactly is her online presence? So the final push that pretty much gets Regina George off the map as being a cool girl is the Christmas show. Such an amazing fucking scene in the original, and Damien does not sing I Am Beautiful by Christina Aguilera, but rather the French version of the iCarly theme song. We had the Mathletes rap, which was almost exactly the same and was hilarious. And then of course we have our Jingle Bell Rock, which was not Jingle Bell Rock, it was called Jingle Around the Pole. They're doing like super sexy dances with the mini skirts and the, you know. And here's where things get a little bit different too, because in the original we have a boombox that's sitting on the stage playing the song. Somebody bumps it and it starts to skip. Nobody's gonna be using boomboxes anymore. First of all, I don't even know why they used a boombox, number one, for an entire auditorium. That seems like it would be really, really awkward and quiet and like bad quality. They definitely had to remove that because that technology is not relevant. Of course, if somebody was playing it over a speaker, it could still skip, but we wouldn't have really been given a reason why unless we were seeing something that was going on behind the scenes in like the audio booth, which then of course gave us a great moment to let Lindsay Lohan sing and save the day, and that's not part of this movie. That does not happen. The big dramatic ending for this is Regina George falls on her ass in front of everybody because they are doing these acrobatic moves, and she's been eating the Caltine bars, so that probably had a little bit to do with it, was that she didn't realize what her weight was. The girl, you know, it was just a disaster. And that is where it just all goes downhill for her and everyone turns on her. Nobody calls her a fat ass, thankfully, in this movie. And in the remake, they turn to Katie and ask what should happen. Should Regina George be allowed to sit with us or not? You know, Lindsay Lohan's character in that moment just like kind of like looks away, like she doesn't want to be the one to say it. Whereas this Katie steps right up into Regina's role and gives it right back to her, now fully embracing this role of the new queen bee. Then we have Katie's house party, which Janice was not invited, but also was given the impression that she was going out of town and wouldn't be able to go to her art show. Same old, same old, same old. The difference in this party is she doesn't throw up. Regina and Shane don't show up to the party all pissed off that they weren't invited. There's no, I like invented her or something. We see on the other end, Regina by herself again, trying to work out because she's upset about her body, that she's been gaining weight from the Caltine bars, which then of course her mother reveals to her, these help you gain weight, why are you taking them? And we have the iconic Regina George scream. The realization that Katie was actually totally fucking with her this entire time. She puts together the burn book. Instead of sprinkling the papers all around the school, she just simply drops the burn book / binder kind of in the middle, and it's just like, someone's gonna pick this up, which of course they do, and it gets around and it's a whole thing. I felt like the guys were also fighting too, so it wasn't just the girls, or at least it wasn't an emphasis that the girls, because in the original the teacher comes in and she's like, the girls have gone wild, and everything in the burn book is just about the girls in the school. So in this fight scene, it kind of seemed to me, maybe my eyes deceived me, but it looked like there was also boys fighting. So it looked like the entire school was fighting. And then a quick change in dialogue, which I thought was cool, was Mr. Duvall in the original, before he slaps the fire alarm to like get everybody under control, says, oh, I didn't leave the South Side for this. That was the joke. In this movie, he says, I didn't go to graduate school for this, and you know, whatever. And at first I didn't really think much of the change, and then I thought about it and I was like, in the original, it was almost made to be like a hood joke, right? Like, oh, this principal is black, oh, he came from the hood and he has this history. Where in this version, they're like, no, he's an educated man. Like, he is the principal of a school. Like, it's not a black joke. It's not a hood joke. I thought it was a really cool way of changing the narrative there. So why else would you change it unless there was a purpose for it? So I think that's what it was. Another quick little shout out with Mr. Duvall is in the background when Regina's crying to him about how she can't believe somebody would put that in the book, is we see a picture of him from the original movie, just like, we know that's from the movie 20 years ago, but this is the exact same story, but there you are from 20 years ago. The weird thing about the boys and the girls fighting is when they finally transition everybody into this stadium, it's just the girls. And it was kind of important to know that in the original because the girls were the ones with the issues. This is mean girls. So when all the guys were fighting and then they just brought the girls in, I was like, why didn't the guys get in trouble too, or whatever? So it was kind of strange to me when we saw Damien there and he was like in the blue hood and the sunglasses hiding. And originally I was like, wait, why is he hiding? Because the guys were also fighting. So the guys are in here too, right? No, they're not. It was just the girls. So it's not like they took that away, that it was like gender neutral, that everyone was having issues, because they literally just put the girls in the auditorium. It was weird. There was a few very similar lines throughout this scene. You know, the girls raising their hands with their eyes closed, that whole thing. It was kind of rushed through again. I felt like we have the she doesn't go here girl, which again, like very stupid little things that were just like, this has to be a part. Like, this is the core of Mean Girls. Like, you have to include it, right? So Janice does not end her speech by yelling, I guess I just have a big lesbian crush on you, suck on that, ay, 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 ay. That was taken out. And it goes into the song that Janice sings about how she'd rather be herself, how she doesn't want to act like all these other girls, whatever. This bothered me so much because we leave the room with the girls. You know, she just exposes like, hey, me and Katie were fucking with Regina this whole time. LOL, we took her boyfriend. LOL, we fucked her face up. We fucked her weight up. This all happened, and then Janice like bolts. So we never see any sort of interaction between Regina and Katie. We just kind of see them in the background fighting. Eventually the song leads us to the outside of the school. Janice crosses the street and we see Regina and Katie come outside the way that they do in the original, but we're still singing the song. So we're not in any way focusing on them. They're literally like in the background. And that's when Regina gets hit by the bus. Again, it was just like really glossed over and rushed. Up until this point, Regina didn't know that Katie was also a mean girl, right? She kind of thought that maybe she was a threat, but not that she was orchestrating this whole downfall behind the scenes with another girl that she had no idea was involved. This was kind of a big moment. It was kind of a big exposure, and in this movie it was just like, oh, they're fighting, and then she got hit by a bus. So it was kind of just like, holy shit. Also, why was the bus going 80 miles an hour? Anybody have the answer to that question? That was wild, the way that that bus was driving. It's literally like the kid in Twilight that was driving the car through the parking lot and ended up like skidding around. He must have gotten a job as a bus driver to be driving that damn bus like that. Holy shit. So then we go through Katie admitting, yes, I wrote the burn book. I'm not gonna say who else did it because I'm not gonna talk about anyone else behind their back. Blah, 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 blah. She joins the mathletes. They go to the mathletes competition. Spoiler alert, Miss Lindsay Lohan makes a cameo here as the mathletes like facilitator. She's the one asking the questions. I kind of knew she was gonna be in this. Like I was just like, there's literally no way Lindsay Lohan's not gonna make a cameo, especially when I saw her on the red carpet for the premiere. But she had several lines, and there was a few little shout outs she made to the original, which was really cool. One of them being, once the two teams are tied, she says something like, oh, well, we've been here before, or I've seen something like this before, something like that. And then again, when Katie goes to answer the question and she's kind of rambling, and Lindsay Lohan's just like, I don't know your life, which may have been kind of a shout out to the fact that like, yeah, you do know exactly what she's going through. You've only literally been in this exact situation. They win, yay, let's go to the spring fling. Win the spring fling. And what was cool about this is Janice actually showed up with a girl date. At some point, Damien sees another guy that kind of was looking at him at the beginning of the movie, so they kind of go off on their respective dates. And Janice comes in rocking the purple outfit again, which was really cool. Damien didn't have a matching one, whatever. I thought it was at least cool that she was rocking the purple suit, because these are just little shout outs to the original, right? Very similar to when Regina George dropped the burn book in the school. She had like the off-shoulder black shirt with the blue bra straps, and at the party Katie had the topless dress, strapless, the tube top dress with the dramatic pink bra straps. So there was a lot of very similar wardrobe situations going on here. So the purple suit was definitely one of them. We have to go through the tacky breaking up of the crown, and of course there's a song involved in this. We see a quick scene in the bathroom where Katie and Regina are like face to face again, which never happens in the original. We don't ever see her actually apologize. We do see Katie go go to the house in the original and is going through this whole like monologue of like having to suck the poison out of her situation. It's not really an intimate scene. There's no interaction between the two, at least that we get to see. So in this one, we actually see the girls face to face after the whole thing that went down with the bus, right? Because Regina's in a whole neck brace. But to be honest, I wasn't impressed with this. I was kind of disappointed with the fact that Regina's like, oh, well, I'm just in a good mood because I'm on painkillers, which is funny because she just broke her neck and like her whole spine. But I was like, okay, so is she actually okay with Katie, or is she literally just fucked up? And also, is getting hit by a bus, is this now changed her completely? Because she turns around and she's like, oh, you know, I like you, to Katie. And I was like, this isn't, like, people don't just change like that. Maybe, I don't know, because I haven't been hit by a bus. Maybe I need to get hit by a bus sometimes. I feel like I have. Would that really make her like less of a bitch? Again, the painkillers were playing a role in that, I'm 100% sure. She's not gonna remember this conversation anyway, so kind of what was the point? Besides the fact that we were given the information that she's on painkillers to kind of make the joke throughout the rest of the movie that she was like really out of it, which when I say the rest of the movie, I meant like the next 5 minutes. I thought it was just kind of an odd redemption moment considering the depth of their history. Again, we're breezing through this movie and these little moments in this dialogue that I'm like, now that we're at the end, I don't really understand why they would even try to remain friends. Even Katie apologizes for pushing her in front of the bus and she's just like, it's not your fault. That's just not the vibe I would have gotten from a teenage girl. I feel like she would have milked the situation. She would have told everybody like, fuck Katie. Like, it would have been a whole thing maybe. I don't buy it. So instead of going through Katie's dialogue at the end of how everybody kind of went off in their own cliques and did their own thing, and we don't see anything like that. It literally just ends with the spring fling dance. Everybody's kind of dancing together, having a good time. Because every little problem that occurred during high school, all the drama, it doesn't matter now because we're at the spring fling and we're all queens. So that was the movie. There was just a few things that I wish they would have done differently. I did appreciate some of the differences, don't get me wrong, but there were some things that I was like, and one of the big things being that I would have loved to see more Regina. I would have loved to see a little bit more interactions between her and either Katie or the other girls. Regina would show up and then almost like leave, or they'd go into a song and I didn't really get to see much of her interaction, because the moments that she did get to interact and was being her Regina self, it felt like it really helped me get to know this character, because obviously we're seeing different versions of the same character, so I'm not sure if they were like, everybody knows these characters, we don't really need to go in depth of who they are. We never are told that Gretchen Wieners is the daughter of the inventor of toaster strudel, which obviously isn't gonna make or break her character, but just like, you know, the whole gold hoop earrings conversation doesn't happen. But overall, I felt that the foundation of the movie was still there. It was definitely still Mean Girls. At some points, I was literally like able to say the lines with them because I know the movie so well. So there was enough similarities. In fact, I would say there was more similarities than differences, to be honest, that I didn't feel like, oh my God, they ruined this movie. I thought it was cool how they did consider how technology was different, how some things wouldn't have gone the same way that they did back in 2004. So overall, I have to say that I did enjoy the movie. I thought it was cute. I thought the music was fun. I thought the outfits were really cool. I would definitely recommend seeing it if you are a Mean Girls fan. If you haven't seen Mean Girls and you don't know anything about it, honestly, I would just stick with the original and then watch the musical version later. I would not start with the musical simply because I just felt like it was too rushed. It would be nice to know kind of the original setup in order to appreciate this new one. Again, these are just my opinions. I love movies and I love to share my opinions about movies. So I really want to do more of that this year, and that's why I started off with Mean Girls. I felt like that was such a perfect way to start. Would love to hear some suggestions on other movies you want me to watch. I saw some people were saying they wanted me to watch Star Wars. I also was considering going back through the Marvel movies and talking about those. A couple people suggested Saltburn. Haven't seen that, but I have heard about it. There's a few other movies that I had a few people suggest that I wanted to review as well. So keep an eye out for those, and please let me know what your opinion of this movie was. I think one of the biggest things that I want to ask, and I'm very interested to see what your opinion is, and I want to know who you think is the real villain, if there is one, in Mean Girls, because obviously we have the stereotypical Mean Girl, Regina George, and then we we have Katie Heron, who transforms herself and very easily becomes Regina George. And then we have Janice Ian, who's kind of on the side orchestrating this entire like fucked up web of fucked up things to do, and is using Katie as kind of like a pawn. They're both using Katie as a pawn, one to get back at Regina, the other to almost like boost herself and to whatever. So I'm gonna wrap it up there, and I really appreciate you guys if you stuck with me through this movie review. I know that's not typically what I've been putting out on my channel lately. I have a few other movie reviews, so I'll link those if you are interested in those as well. And moving forward, I just want to put out there that I'm really making an effort to steer away from such negative content, meaning I'm portraying or reacting to such negative and toxic people, and it's just truly exhausting for me to have to even be in that mindset all the time, and that's just like constantly what I'm putting out. And you know, I know that that's what I've always done, and people expect that from me, and they want me to put out this sort of content, but you know, I'm trying to, you know, evolve here, and I've been trying to work on myself, and one of the things I really want to work on is what I'm presenting to you guys. So YouTube might be a little bit weird this year because I'm gonna just do what I want to do and not just stick with things that I know work. And I think that that's something that I really fell into last year, was just doing things that I know worked, doing things that I know would get views, and that really just took away from me even enjoying what I was doing. So I definitely want to still do reactions, but maybe not all to like the worst types of people, if you know what I mean. In the meantime, I'm just gonna be doing my thing, girl. All of my social medias are linked below. Feel free to follow me on TikTok or Instagram, or send me an email, or follow any of the accounts that are listed in my link tree. I'm not on Facebook, that's not me. And in the meantime, I appreciate you for being here, and I will see you next time. And you can't sit with us.